Riot Games pulled off one of the most impressive feats in 2020, running a successful offline international esports tournament in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. The 2020 League of Legends World Championships was held in Shanghai, China, with 22 teams from around the world attending. The event was a complete success with a crowd in attendance for the grand finals. And best of all, not a single player or staff ever tested positive for COVID-19 throughout this tournament. This video will detail the unbelievable logistics it took Riot Games to successfully pull off the only offline esports event during the pandemic. We will describe the planning it took to ensure the safety of every party involved and share the experiences the teams went through during this period of time. My name is Kudo, and this is how Riot Games pulled off the World Championship during the COVID-19 pandemic. 2020 was a terrible year for offline esports events. The year saw many professional tournaments postponed or moved online. Valve delayed the Dota 2 International to 2021. All of Call of Duty's professional leagues were moved to an online format. ESL had to cancel or postpone most Counter-Strike Global Offensive majors. Fortnite World Cup was cancelled. The Overwatch League had to cancel all homestand plans and move their entire league online. Their grand finals were conducted in Korea, with 2 NA teams flying over but played in their own facilities, not in an in-person setting. With the trend of offline events being postponed or moved digitally, it seemed that the writing was on the wall for the League of Legends World Championship to follow suit. Worlds is considered one of the most important annual esports events in the entire industry. It continually breaks viewership records, and the presentation of the tournament makes itself to be considered the most important, especially given the popularity of League of Legends. The company was committed to making their 10th World Championship happen. It would mean that Riot would be taking on their greatest logistical challenge they have ever faced. The original plans were that the World Championship was to be set in multiple cities in China. Usually, each part of the tournament was played in a different venue within the region. 24 teams from around the world would travel to the region, and the tournament would happen over a span of 1 month. Once the COVID-19 pandemic struck, the entire event was in jeopardy. Riot Games had to cancel its spring counterpart, the mid-season invitational. The Chinese government then cancelled all major international sporting events for the year. Worlds was also a tournament that simply couldn't go online due to it being an international competition. For the event to not be cancelled, Riot began planning all contingencies in February with the Shanghai government. Shanghai was also reluctant to cancel the event too, as the city is trying to establish itself as a global esports capital. After months of planning with government officials, safety consultants, and global health organizations, along with seeing how the pandemic played out across the world, Riot released the plans for the World Championship to the public on July 31st. All stages of the World Championship would be held in Shanghai. This is so that Riot can create a bubble for all teams and staff traveling to the event. Every person would then be forced to quarantine individually in a hotel for 14 days before congregating together. The most immediate challenge presented to Riot was how to get all 24 teams to China. First off, many international flying routes were either cancelled or operating at minimal capacity. Some teams had to travel for more than 24 hours to reach Shanghai, increasing their potential of exposure to COVID-19 from the transit. Second off, visas were difficult to acquire due to the country's regulation of travel during the pandemic. Every single country's COVID situation was different. Some were able to control the spread, and some quite obviously didn't. In order to ensure that visas could be approved in time, Riot officials contacted every single team participating in the summer split 4 months in advance. This is to get all the players' passports to begin the vetting stage for Chinese visas. This step unfortunately knocked out SK Gaming's jungler Trick from eligibility for Worlds. His passport was unable to be renewed in time to meet the requirements for a Chinese visa. PSG Talon, representing the Pacific Championship Series, had their roster shaken up due to these same restrictions. Players Tank and River were unable to participate in the play-in stage due to travel restrictions and visa requirement paperwork. And when the paperwork was eventually secured, they missed the window to quarantine in time for play-ins. Uniboy and Kong Yu were substituted, loaned from HQ Esports. Fortunately, PSG Talon qualified for the main group stage, allowing River and Tank to rejoin the roster for the next stage of competition. Even with months in advance, one qualified team didn't know if they were able to make it. The Unicorns of Love, representing Russia, almost didn't play at Worlds, citing circumstances beyond their own control. As a contingency, Riot sent second-place team Gambit Esports as backup in case UOL wasn't able to travel. Fortunately, Riot fought to the last second and they were able to send the Unicorns in time to quarantine for the championships. Gambit Esports, despite never playing, was awarded a portion of the World's 2020 prize pool. Aside from visas, the last obstacle was the origin country's international travel restrictions. Countries varied in precaution and restrictions for those entering. Some may enforce a 14-day quarantine or a negative COVID test. However, Vietnam closed its borders completely to outside visitors, even including those with citizenship. This meant that the two clubs representing Vietnam, GAM Esports and Team Flash, were unable to participate in the World Championship. To make up for this, Riot awarded those two teams a share of the prize pool. In the beginning of September, all teams embarked to Shanghai. Upon arrival, the players were then greeted by airport staff wearing full protective equipment and then shuttled to the hotel to be strictly quarantined for 14 straight days. Nobody was to have any human contact aside from the temperature check by the doctors. This strict quarantine measure was needed to ensure the integrity of the bubble the teams would be in for the next month. That reality of concern set in when Team Supermassive of Turkey had been told that 2 individuals from their flight had tested positive for the coronavirus. Every hotel room was equipped with a humidifier, exercise equipment like weights or a bicycle, a circular desk with a computer, along with various snacks and a lovely gift basket from Riot. Everyone would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner delivered outside their room. Some players took the 14 days positively and proceeded to play League of Legends for literally the entire day. However, some were dreading the experience. Team Liquid coach Jad told the Washington Post his experience when it came to running practices. Jad stated, "The internet was serviceable but not great. It was not an ideal practice environment, but I told the team it was at least a level playing field. Everyone was experiencing the same thing. It was really stressful, but that was due to practice reasons, less about the room." The worst part was the food delivery, because it was fixed at certain times and we adjusted our sleep schedule since our first match was at 10 PM. A lot of times our food was cold or stale. TSM mid laner Bjergsen stated, "When you're in a competitive environment, emotions are always going to run high and it's just a little bit hard to be connected as a team when you're all sitting in your individual apartment, homes, and also during the 2-week quarantine. It really hurt our progress and productivity as a team. That was definitely really hard on our team, though it is something that every team has to go through. So you just have to be prepared for it and do your best under those circumstances." Other players vlogged about their experience during their time in quarantine.
It's right now 10:30. I need to send in my body temperature because around 10 and 2 you need to send in your body temperatures to make sure you don't have fever, I think. Here's the main room. We've been here for 10 days already and my room is not that messy actually, so that's kind of impressive by me, not gonna lie. I think my mom and dad will be proud of me seeing how actually not that messy my room is, I think, from my standards at least.
And we also do some exercise with the team, with the camera on.
Oh my god guys, I'm so excited for tomorrow.
Yes.
At the boat tracking there is a breakfast and there is no breakfast. And from breakfast I always take an orange juice and a bit of like croissant.
I'm losing track of times. Yesterday I did sleep 6 or 7 hours in one go, I'm not really sure. The first night I slept like 3 hours and then I woke up and then I was tired, but I couldn't sleep for 2 more hours and then I went to play solo queue and then I went back to bed and slept again for 3 hours. Chinese solo queue is kind of fun.
After 14 days of strict quarantine and terrible food, the teams were finally able to see each other knowing they were COVID-free. They left the initial quarantine hotel and were placed in a more luxurious one with a great view of the city and a practice room where they can all be together in. After a few more days quarantining, they were able to leave the hotel and finally explore Shanghai. Measures such as temperature checks and weekly COVID tests were still being done to all teams, but they were finally able to go outside as one. The World Championships officially began on September 25. The Shanghai Media Tech Studio would be home for all of the tournament except for the Grand Finals. Precautions were still being taken seriously throughout this period of play. Riot controlled all the travel between the venue and the hotel. Catering in the venue was to staff only, not for the teams. All broadcast personnel were not invited to Shanghai and instead commentated from the regional studios. The Grand Finals took place in the newly constructed Pudong Football Stadium. The World Championships would be its inaugural event. A crowd of 6,000 spectators were allowed to attend. In order to be accepted into the stadium, an individual's ticket must be tied to a level 30 League of Legends account and verified by ID, facial recognition, and a health QR code. The health code system monitored people's travel history within the country for the past 14 days. If the color was green, the person can enter the venue. If the health code came up yellow or red, the individual was denied entry. In the end of the event, Korea's DAMWON Gaming triumphed over China's Suning to be crowned the Season 10 League of Legends World Champion. Not a single person that was involved in the event ever tested positive for COVID-19. Worlds was one of the only offline esports international events to have ever happened in the year 2020. Credit must be given to the Riot Games staff involved in the planning and logistics to make the World Championships even happen in such an adverse year for offline events. They planned accordingly and way in advance to ensure that enough time was given to allow the teams to travel to China. With the coordination of the Shanghai government and several health organizations, Riot Games successfully ensured the safety of all involved through its strict health measures throughout the competition. The state of the coronavirus pandemic in China, along with the strict measures of safety and security, allowed the decision to have a live audience for the finale. The event was overall well received. In the state of professional esports, where continual online events grew tiring for audiences at home, Riot Games made this tournament feel even more special. The 2020 World Championships retained its aura of feeling like a massive event in a year full of turmoil. I end this video with a quote from lead producer Adam Makasek to Forbes. "We are all extremely proud of the show we've created, especially given the level of adversity 2020 threw our way. This show would be absurdly ambitious in a normal year. That our team has come together to create this spectacle in a year where almost no other show of its kind is happening at this scale is truly special and a testament to this team's commitment to our fans. This event, more than any other we've done, is a love letter to our fans, to the incredible community that has built this game and this sport for the last decade. We hope that appreciation for their passion was evident when fans watched the show. My name is Kudo, and thank you for watching."